So, I was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace one day looking at stuff I can't afford when I stumbled across an intriguing ad. It was for a car I'd never heard of, a sleek red 1990 two-door Buick Coupe called a Reatta. I'm turning 40 this year. Life expectancy for a guy in Canada is 80, and when I saw the Buick Reatta, it made me realize that I need a midlife crisis car. I want to make it memorable. Now, I'm the kind of guy whose idea of a cool car is something spacious enough to carry light stands in the family in, but small enough to park in between two parking spaces. So basically, a Kia Soul. I drive a Kia Soul. Me and all the little old ladies. I'm not really a car guy, but I'm becoming a car guy because at 230,000 kilometers on my Kia Soul, I've done fuel lines, brake lines, parking brake, touch-up paint, ball joints, metal clamps, fuses, 15 amps. What would be a 1-hour repair job always takes about 4 for me, but still, I can do stuff myself thanks to YouTube and my father-in-law, Ray. Thanks, Ray. If you Google the Reatta, you'll find out that this car has kind of a great story, and it's kind of awesome. They only made about 21,000 Reattas over 4 years between 1988 and 1991.
We've got one of the finest cars in the world. I'll stack it up against any one of them.
It was literally handmade in a special factory in Lansing, Michigan, and it has a really nice fit and finish, more like a Corolla than a General Motors car. It has a reliable 3800 engine, and a lot of parts are off-the-shelf GM, except the windshield. You break that and you're screwed. It had all digital gauges, and the earlier versions even sported a touchscreen, just like your Tesla, sort of. And it had pop-up headlights. This was to be Buick's halo car, to make the brand stand out.
Buick, go ahead, you deserve it.
When I was a kid, we replaced our gutless Ford Tempo with a Buick Century. My mom was so proud she picked me up from school at lunch and drove me all around the neighborhood. She thought it looked like a Jaguar. I learned to drive in that car. We spent hundreds of hours on road trips. It was also the first car that I accidented, and so did my sister and my other sister and the good old days. My wife, surprisingly, liked the idea of me getting one. I told her it was for my midlife crisis, and she said that she's getting a divorce for hers. In one weekend since discovering it, I'd become obsessed with the Buick Reatta. Finding affordable Reattas in good shape turned out to be difficult.
Oh no!
I dragged my father-in-law up north an hour and a half to look at one which was good in the photos but not so nice in person. It had water infiltration and the body was rusty. I passed. Next, I found one even further north, but the seller had lost the key and the interior looked like a bear got into it,
causing $500,000 worth of damage.
Not to be defeated, like any good Canadian, I turned to the south. I found one in Boca Raton, Florida. Flights are cheap from Boca Raton. I talked to Tony over the phone, who had a mint Buick Reatta convertible in his garage. It had been his grandfather's and he just wanted it out. I think he could have got maybe $10,000 for it. US dollars. He sold it for $3,000, but not to me. Jim in Ontario, nice guy. Look at all these great photos he sent me. No ceiling. I asked my friend Adam, who's a car guy, to keep an eye out for me, but he said I would avoid that car like the plague. Huh? Then he said, remember, dreams can be nightmares too. Turns out, not everybody loves the Reatta.
The official car of finally getting a threesome in your 50s with your wife and her slightly hot best friend. You know it isn't forever, but you're here and now, waiting for your pills to kick in for round 2 with your glass of brandy and some Miles Davis. It's all about the moment, the wind in your hair, the smell of sweat and perfume, and the clinical feeling of hotel bedding. The car is a Buick. It doesn't make you cool, and nobody is going to be jealous of you being with Brenda and Carla, but that's not important now. Now you are the king, and that's the Reatta, the one indiscretion allowed in your white bread life that makes it all worthwhile.
That was effing beautiful and painfully accurate.
But I still kind of wanted a Reatta. Buying from the States is tough. There's paperwork, crappy exchange rate. In the meantime, I met a guy named Peter who used to have a Reatta. He offered to go with me if I found one and help me drive it back. I found one local about an hour away, and well, it was okay if you squinted and used your imagination a bit. I didn't buy the car, but Peter, the guy I'd met, noticed something.
After looking at that car car again, it is without a doubt my old car. The headliner gives it away. So, after contemplating this car and knowing it as well as I do, I would recommend you do not buy this one. I say that for only one reason. There's rust around the windshield that's invisible unless you know what to look for. Any attempt to fix this would involve taking the windshield out, and if you break it, you cannot get another one. People have scrapped cars for this reason.
I don't want to drive all the way out there for nothing. Thank you, Peter. There were other Reattas. But then it happened. I found the perfect Reatta. I couldn't afford $7,000, so I offered him $4,000. He said, I'd do $5,000. Canadian dollars. The car had 63,000 kilometers. This Reatta was brand stinking new. Only problem was, it was on the opposite side of the continent, in Chilliwack, BC. How do you spell that? Chilliwack? Impossible, right? Right? Last minute flights to Abbotsford were $1,000. But I could take a quick bus from there to Chilliwack. But no, I can't waste $1,000 in a week of my time driving it home. Who do I know in Chilliwack, BC? My friend Dan, who lives in Vancouver-ish, told me his brother is a mechanic in Chilliwack. He could ask him to pick up the car. I called the guy and asked if it was okay if someone else picks up the car. We had a nice chat. I felt we bonded. He said, okay. So I waited for Dan to ask his brother. Every second that ticked by, I knew that somebody else could be buying my car. Plus, I didn't actually have the money yet. I had to pull some out of my TFSA. I even invested. I signed up for a line of credit for my business because this is a business expense, right? The car, yeah, of course, but that takes a couple days. So I had to do the unthinkable and ask the wife. She was surprisingly okay with it and kind of excited. This was good. It might even work. And this was a beautiful car. Just look at it. I pestered my boy Dan beyond the point that you should pester somebody to ask his brother to do it. Eventually, I had to take a time out and just sit in my car for a little while my wife was in the store and reflect. This really was the perfect Reatta. The guy told me he bought it off a German woman who didn't even live in the country anymore, but kept the car stored since 1994. He bought it, drove it for a year, and it's beautiful. Low kilometers, the leather's perfect, the back taillight's not even foggy, the paint looks perfect, all the maintenance is done, good tires, sunroof. I knew this was the one, my unicorn. Whew, time out. Before I'd become obsessed with the Buick Reatta, I'd been in a bit of a rut. But this had, for a couple of months now, given me something to look forward to, something to motivate me to work harder, to not be depressed, to make tough career changes, because frankly, I'm tired of not having any money. I'm tired of the economy. I'm tired of not being able to afford to fly out and get any Reatta that I want and drive it home. I'm a filmmaker, freelance, and before that I was a wedding videographer. Business had been good, but it's not anymore. I needed to make some changes in my life, and when I realized I had the power to change my life, God help me, I'm going to do it. So I was heartbroken when I got the text. Sold. Getting that car had been a long shot from the beginning, but I'd convinced myself that it was possible, and I'd tried, and it had become possible. And that made me realize that I can do hard things. And if a few circumstances had been more favorable, or if I'd been ready, I would have got the car.
So the next time we meet, I will not fail.
You should always learn from your failures, so I'm learning. I'm working harder, I'm making more money, I'm being smarter, and I'm planning for next time, so I will have my unicorn, Reatta. The truth is, it was almost impossible for me to succeed. And yet, I almost did. Since I've been obsessed with the Reatta, I've begun reading books on self-improvement, on making money. I'm planning on going back to school to join an industry that actually does something useful. Another thing, it's okay to have these weird obsessions. You have to harness them to improve your life and to make yourself a better person, to be more effective, disciplined, and focused, to have goals. I also discovered there's a great online community of Reatta owners who help each other out, sell and buy stuff, and have these big gatherings where they all, look at each other's cars, I guess. People could join hate groups, but here they are, joining a group that celebrates good engineering and quality workmanship. In truth, I don't need a Reatta. My 2011 Kia Soul is a great car, even if it's only tiny old ladies who drive them. This is the important thing. Have something to shoot for. You know that experiment they did in the 70s where they left a kid in a room with a marshmallow, but they told him that if he didn't eat it, then he could have 2 marshmallows later? The kids who waited for the second marshmallow did better at life. They had self-control, but they also had something to look forward to. That's what we all need in life. The Reatta is my second marshmallow. I'm waiting for it. It's coming. I just don't know when. I'll sell my soul for the right car. My Kia Soul, that is. Oh look, Reatta number 1 is back on the market. Looks like he gave it a paint job and doubled the price? Thanks for watching. Sell me your Reatta in the comments.